A small coastal town that seems calm, but beneath the surface, it hides dark, unspeakable secrets. Secrets that are about to be unearthed in the most horrifying way. Joel Moreira, a devoted husband, notices a chilling distance growing between him and his wife, Mariana. What begins as subtle shifts in her behavior soon morphs into something sinister. However, what he discovers next will not only shatter his world, but send shockwaves through the entire town. This isn't merely a tale of infidelity. This is the prelude to a gruesome nightmare. Unsuspecting residents find themselves entangled in a spiraling descent into terror. A video projected onto a giant screen during a religious service unearths a horrifying truth. The wrath of a betrayed husband is unleashed with terrifying consequences. But this is just the first domino to fall in a cruel and bloody chain of events. Joel Moreira was born and raised in the working-class suburbs of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A man of simple means, he was kind, hard-working, and unassuming. His only wish was to lead a peaceful, uneventful life. He had no great ambitions beyond providing for his family, earning an honest living at a construction supply store, and enjoying the quiet existence of his small town. At the age of 30, yielding to his family's wishes, Joel agreed to an arranged marriage with Mariana Silva, a woman from a neighboring family. Mariana was different. Born into wealth in central Rio de Janeiro, she had known comfort and luxury. Yet despite her privileged upbringing, she harbored a deep, gnawing emptiness, a loneliness that had followed her like a shadow since childhood. Beautiful, elegant, yet emotionally neglected, she had been raised to fulfill the role of a traditional wife, a devoted mother, a woman of obedience. And so, when the time came, her family arranged for her to marry Joel, a man of stability and simple virtues, hoping he would provide her with the life they believed she needed. In early 2018, Joel and Mariana exchanged vows in a small, traditional ceremony in their quiet coastal town. To outsiders, their union appeared perfect, a marriage built on stability and mutual respect, just as their families had intended. For the first year, it seemed true. Their home was filled with warmth, hope, and the promise of a future. But soon the cracks began to form, and once they appeared, they only widened, swallowing them whole. Joel, absorbed in his work, gradually became distant. Mariana, craving affection, felt increasingly alone, lost in the cold, unfeeling spaces between them. The warmth in their home dimmed. The silence between them stretched into an unbearable void. Mariana, desperate for comfort, found herself seeking refuge elsewhere, in the walls of the town's church. At first it was innocent. The church had always been a place of solace for her. She attended services more frequently, lingering in the pews long after the prayers had ended, the dim candlelight casting eerie shadows around her. It was there that she caught the attention of Father Felipe. Father Felipe was a man of 40, with a soothing voice and a penetrating gaze that seemed to see through the soul. His presence was calm, his words filled with wisdom. But there was something unsettling about his attentiveness, something Mariana did not immediately recognize as dangerous. He noticed her sadness, the way she remained behind after prayers, staring into the flickering light with hollow eyes. At first, he offered gentle guidance, words meant to restore her faith, to heal the wounds she would not speak of. But as the nights grew longer, their conversations deepened. And then, they darkened. Mariana felt something awaken within her, a hunger, a pull she could neither understand nor resist. Felipe became more than a priest. He became her confidant, her secret. His presence filled the void Joel had left, his words seeping into the spaces where loneliness had taken root. Then, on a fateful autumn afternoon in 2019, Mariana crossed a threshold she could never return from. It happened in the small, candlelit room behind St. Peter's Church, where shadows danced against the walls, and silence smothered the air like a lingering ghost. According to Mariana's later confession, that was the moment everything changed. The moment she abandoned the last remnants of her conscience. The moment an unholy bond was forged in secrecy, one that would lead to ruin, madness, and bloodshed. Because in this town, secrets don't stay buried, and some sins are paid for in screams, It was an autumn afternoon in 2019 when Mariana arrived at the church, exhausted and frustrated by the cold emptiness of her marriage. The air was thick with the scent of burning candles and damp stone, an oppressive presence that clung to the skin. The dim light filtering through the stained glass windows cast eerie, fragmented patterns on the floor, as if the church itself harbored shadows too deep to dispel. After the service, Father Felipe invited her to his room under the guise of offering comfort and spiritual guidance. In that secluded chamber, far from prying eyes, the holy space became something unholy. The walls, once meant to echo prayers and confessions, now bore silent witness to whispers of temptation. Mariana, drowning in her own loneliness and vulnerability, lost herself in the embrace of a man who should have been untouchable. The moment their flesh met, something shifted in the air, as if the church itself recoiled in silent protest. From that night on, nothing remained the same. Guilt should have consumed Mariana, but instead she felt a perverse awakening, a rebirth laced with both terror and exhilaration. She sought out Felipe obsessively, drawn to him as if possessed. Their meetings became more frequent, more daring. The sacred halls where people whispered prayers became their hunting ground for stolen glances and forbidden touches. Even Mariana's own home, once a place of comfort and love, became a den of sin. Each creak of the wooden floorboards, each tick of the clock, became a sinister reminder that their secret would not stay hidden forever. By July 2019, Joel, Mariana's husband, began noticing changes in her. She had grown distant, her once warm touch now cold and mechanical. He heard her murmured prayers at night, but there was something different about them, as if she were whispering to something else entirely. Suspicion took root in his mind like a slow-growing rot, and soon paranoia gripped him. Desperate to uncover the truth, Joel installed hidden cameras throughout their home before leaving on a business trip. He never could have prepared himself for what he would later witness. When he reviewed the footage, his breath caught in his throat. There, on his own living room sofa, Mariana and Father Filippo lay entwined in a blasphemous embrace. But it wasn't just their betrayal that chilled him to the bone. It was the way the shadows in the room seemed to move around them, writhing like something alive, something watching. Rage consumed him, but Joel did not act immediately. No, he needed revenge, one as cruel and public as the betrayal itself. He spent sleepless nights planning, orchestrating every detail with meticulous precision. The church, the very place they had defiled, would be the stage of their reckoning. On September 15, 2019, the church was packed, the air thick with incense and murmured prayers. Father Felipe stood at the pulpit, delivering his sermon with the same pious mask he always wore. But Joel was ready. As Felipe's voice rang out, Joel pressed a single button, and the towering screen behind the priest flickered to life. The images that appeared were unmistakable. Gasps and cries filled the sanctuary as the congregation watched the unspeakable unfold before their eyes. The video played in haunting silence, each second stretching unbearably long. Mariana, seated among the worshippers, felt the blood drain from her face as the weight of 100 horrified gazes fell upon her. The church doors groaned as people tried to flee, but it was too late. The truth was out. Felipe stood frozen, his face devoid of the confidence he once exuded. The murmurs of prayer were replaced with whispers of condemnation, of disgust. His dignity, his power, everything was stripped from him in mere moments. He tried to speak, but his voice faltered. The walls of the church seemed to close in, suffocating him under the weight of his own sins. Joel watched from the shadows, his expression unreadable. He had won, but at what cost? The Mariana he had once loved no longer existed, and the home they had built together was now nothing more than a haunted ruin filled with memories that would never fade. In the weeks that followed, Mariana and Joel's marriage crumbled into dust. She did not fight the divorce. There was nothing left to fight for. Felipe was stripped of his position, exiled from the church like a fallen angel cast from heaven. But the whispers never stopped. The congregation spoke of the darkness that had seeped into their sanctuary, of the feeling that something else had been watching that night. Some claimed that even now, when the church was empty, the echoes of gasps and cries still lingered, trapped within the cold stone walls. And when the candles flickered without wind, when the shadows stretched just a little too long, they wondered, had the church truly rid itself of evil, or had something far worse taken its place? After being expelled from the church, Felipe fell into a deep, consuming darkness. He became a ghost of himself, isolated in a crumbling house on the outskirts of town, a place where even stray dogs refused to linger. The walls of his exile whispered with the echoes of his disgrace, and the townspeople, who once revered him, now saw him as a cursed figure. When he walked through the streets, eyes burned into him with scorn, and murmurs followed like the hiss of a serpent. Though the scandal had been exposed, a chilling rumor persisted, that Felipe and Mariana had not severed their sinful ties. Some claimed they met under the cover of night, their passion undeterred by disgrace. Their rendezvous took place in places abandoned by light, where the shadows stretched unnaturally, and the air was thick with decay. Time passed and the town lulled itself into uneasy forgetfulness. Then, in November 2021, something dreadful occurred. Joel, the betrayed husband, vanished without a trace. At first, people believed he had fled, consumed by humiliation. But as days turned into weeks with no word, the whispers of suspicion grew louder. His family, unable to bear the uncertainty, turned to the police. The search began, peeling back the layers of the town's darkness. Weeks later, the horrifying truth was unearthed in an abandoned house on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. Joel's dismembered remains were found strewn across the decayed floor, his flesh rotting, his bones gnawed by vermin. The air in the house was heavy with death, the walls stained with the remnants of something ritualistic. Symbols carved into the wood, as if someone had tried to seal a malevolent force within. The police's investigation led them to a grim discovery. Felipe's fingerprints were found on a rusted saw, its jagged teeth still crusted with dried blood. A series of cryptic text messages traced back to Felipe revealed a trap. Messages luring Joel to the house under the guise of reconciliation. But the most damning evidence came in the form of blood. A small but undeniable trace of Felipe's own DNA mixed with the macabre stains at the crime scene. Had Joel fought back? Had Felipe been wounded in his frenzy? A witness, an old man who lived near the edge of the woods, came forward with a chilling testimony. On the night of Joel's disappearance, he had seen a man, his silhouette oddly stiff, driving toward the abandoned house. The description matched Felipe, but what unnerved the witness most was the way the figure sat behind the wheel, unmoving, as if something else controlled him. The town buzzed with fear as more unsettling details surfaced. Felipe had kept a journal, its pages filled with incoherent ramblings of revenge, of hatred twisting into something darker. Some entries spoke of shadows that whispered to him, of eyes watching him through the cracks in his walls. He believed he was chosen, to cleanse, to punish. The final entry read, "Tonight the blood will spill, and the voices will be pleased." When Felipe was arrested, he did not resist. At the station, he recounted the crime with an eerie detachment, his voice devoid of remorse. He detailed how he had called Joel to the abandoned house, feigning a need for closure. When Joel arrived, Felipe struck with the precision of a man possessed. The killing was not quick. Joel had fought, clawed, begged, but Felipe had been relentless. After the life had drained from Joel's eyes, Felipe had taken his time, carving, severing, arranging the body in a manner that seemed more ritualistic than mere concealment. He spoke of the act as if it had been guided by something beyond him, something ancient and insatiable. The trial in March 2022 gripped the town in a suffocating horror. As the damning evidence was presented, many refused to meet Felipe's gaze, fearing what lurked behind his hollow eyes. The jury deliberated for only a few hours. The verdict, guilty. Felipe was sentenced to life in prison, but even behind bars, his presence lingered in the town like a sickness. The aftermath was devastating. The church, once a sanctuary, became a hollow monument to betrayal. Many could no longer pray within its walls, haunted by what had transpired. Mariana, now abandoned by all, became a ghost herself. Some claimed to see her wandering the streets at night, whispering apologies to no one. Others believed she was waiting for Felipe, waiting for the past to reclaim her. Joel's family remained shattered, unable to comprehend the depth of the evil that had taken him. And the town, forever marked by the horror, tried to move forward. But some things refused to stay buried. Some whispers never fade.